we are seeing in the news every day reports of layoffs. As I read these reports from some of the companies that have been, anything from Carvana to Netflix to other companies, and it looks to be, Julia, as though it's, hey, they staffed up during a really hot time, and now they're doing what public companies will do, who are beholden to stockholders and that stock price, that they may be anticipating a slowdown, or they are reacting to an actual slowdown. Do you see patterns in these areas of layoffs, or do you see it as just normal business cycles, which public companies do? They'll staff up, they'll staff down. They're always kind of playing that roller coaster effect. What do you see here?
So if you look at the aggregate data on layoffs, like in something called the Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey, layoffs are at an all-time record low. Yeah. So layoffs have averaged about 1.4 million or even less every month this year, which is below the pre-pandemic average of 1.9 million. Let's take one industry, for example, hospitality. In the hospitality industry, they have been doing 47% fewer layoffs and firings every month this year than before the pandemic. Okay, so in many parts of the economy, especially in industries with a lot of turnover, typically in hospitals, in schools, in all of those kinds of places, it's almost impossible to get fired right now. Demand is huge. There are shortages. There are very few layoffs. Yes, we're seeing all these layoff announcements, right, in the media. There's a website called layoffs.fyi that tracks all of these tech sector layoffs. And I think their current count is about more than 72,000 tech workers having been laid off. If you look at those layoffs, though, they are mostly of not tech workers, not software engineers, but marketing and support function type workers, recruiters, people like that. And many of those people are not staying on unemployment very, very long. So if we have seen an uptick in initial jobless claims over the last few months, but we've seen no pass through into continuing claims, meaning people are claiming unemployment benefits for a week or two, and then they're finding a new job very quickly. So it's still a tight labor market. And by historical standards, these are still very, very, very low levels of layoffs.
Yeah. And so do you see then that we continue in this really hot labor market where you're going to see a disparity between the amount of people unemployed and the amount of jobs available?
I think we could see a tight labor market for this foreseeable future. I think this will be a tough hiring environment for many, many businesses for the long haul because labor force participation has fallen, and in recent months it hasn't recovered much. It looks like the people with sort of the highest propensity to get back into the labor market have already come back.
Wow.
And now a lot of the people who left are still out on the sidelines and are not making moves to come back. So we have this mismatch between supply and demand. We do see a lot of companies, I think, beholden to sort of wishful thinking, right? For the last sort of year and a half, they've been doing 20% more hiring than they normally did before the pandemic because they're still losing 15, 20% more workers every month who are quitting. This great resignation is still very much upon us. I think many companies are hoping that things get back to normal, that they won't have to spend all their time hiring and training new people, that it won't be such a struggle. I think many of them are in for a rude awakening. It's going to remain pretty tough for quite a while.
I got to get you to comment on this. I know you're more on the economy side, but part of what I'm doing now as an extension of what I set out to do is to kind of ring a clarion call to leaders to say, you can't just throw money and benefits and flexible work at people anymore. Yeah. We saw a McKinsey study come out just 2 weeks ago. I was on Fox Business talking about this with Maria Bartiromo, and the McKinsey report came out and just said point blank that the thing that workers are looking for most now is they're looking for an opportunity to be developed. So yes, a paycheck is tied to that, but it is a derivative of you are developing me and training me, so you value me enough to do those things, and thus I've got an opportunity to grow with you. And as I grow professionally, obviously I'm going to grow financially. The raises, then the opportunities come with that. And to the point that I said on the show, and I just want you to comment on that from your angle, because I said to Maria, I said, look, I think that the new challenge for leadership is that employees and prospective employees that you're trying to attract and then retain, they want you to show them a path to a better life. They're no longer looking for a better job.
I think you are on the money here. And, we're seeing the rise of trends like quiet quitting. I don't know if you've seen all the TikTok
Oh,
videos
drives me crazy. I talk
this,
about it every day now.
right? Encouraging people to emotionally disengage from their job. And I think the reason you're seeing that is because the relationship between effort and reward got broken by this pandemic.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, people got laid off, whether or not they were hard chargers, whether or not they were the best employees, because companies felt like a nuclear bomb had gone off in their businesses and they had no choice. But it was very discouraging to people who worked really hard. Now, on the other side of the problem, we have a situation where low performers, where underachievers, where the slackers, the people who are malingering and not showing up to work, are not getting fired. Despite poor performance, because companies can't afford to fire them because they can't afford to replace them. And so the hard charges in the office are saying, wait a second, I'm picking up all the slack for that guy. That guy stands around, doesn't show up, talks all day without doing work. He gets the same paycheck as me. This is totally unfair. So I think leaders have a big challenge to address that, to sort of assert the standards, the principles, the values on which they were sort of founded and which were sort of the core of their operations before. And to kind of, reestablish a world where effort gets rewarded, where there's a clear link, where the incentives are good and wholesome and right.
Yeah, so true. I don't think the Great Resignation is going to slow until there's a great engagement. Gallup has been doing, I think, incredible work for years, year in, year out. They do a work report, and as far back as I can remember, the number has been about 68% holding steady of American workers who are disengaged on the job. Yeah. And Gallup is very quick to point out when you read the data in the report, doesn't mean they hate their job. We're not talking about an emotion as high as hate. It just means they're not engaged. And so now all of a sudden we got a new term for this called quiet quitting, and it's nothing new. It's people who aren't engaged and don't want to engage for a variety of reasons. And this is the great leadership challenge before us. The deck has shifted mightily for leaders, and they better wake up. I shared a story today about Bezos and this internal report that's gone public. And they say openly that the strategy, because they overhired, the strategy is to let normal attrition just burn through these people like they're logs on a fire. And it's mind-numbing to me. And they don't get it. And I got to tell you, Julia, Amazon is not too mighty to fall. And if they don't start valuing people and taking care of people, it is going to be extraordinary to see what happens to some of these companies who don't figure out that the new way to work is to love people.
Well, there's an interesting study that came out, or a report from Amazon where they say that in some areas they worry that they have already exhausted the supply of people willing to do warehouse work. Many employers are feeling that way. They feel like they have exhausted the supply of qualified candidates in their neighborhoods, and they don't really know what to do about it.